again. It's Tracy, and I am a grateful believer in Jesus. I came to celebrate recovery with addictions to methamphetamine, alcohol, and being a sexual abuser. I'm still working on pride issues in my life, and I suppose pride being the original sin, that it's always going to be an issue somewhere in my life. Something that I'm going to have to maintain and take care of. Which leads into what I want to talk about today. When I was a young guy, my brother, who's a year older, we lived with our dad in a little place right outside of Reno, Nevada, called Sun Valley. Now, Sun Valley is a large trailer park community. It's not actually a trailer park, but in the entire valley, when I was growing up, there was only like 3 actual houses. All the rest of them were mobile homes. Well, we lived in a double wide because we were fancy. We lived in a double wide, and it was on a 3rd-acre lot. So it wasn't a big patch of land, but when there's nothing on it, it looks pretty large, especially to a little guy. Well, my dad would say once a year, maybe twice, sometimes more often, he would say, "You guys need to get out there and weed that back area." Well, my brother and I, we took that as punishment. This is just wrong. It's punishment, and we would try everything we could to get out of doing it. Which is really, we were procrastinating. We'd find games to play with each other or something else, anything else more exciting than going out and taking care of the weeds in the back. But the procrastination, the putting it off, only made the weeds get bigger. I was talking to friends about this and how I hated going out and doing the weeds. And they often said that their parents were the same with them. Go out and take care of the weeds. You need to get the backyard taken care of. Pick the weeds out around the flowers, the mom would say. And it's funny that even at my age and the age of the people that I was speaking to, that's something that we really remember. And I don't know if we remember it as in the form of punishment or, as in my case right now, as a life lesson. The weeds growing in the backyard. Now, living in the high desert where I lived, there wasn't a lot of water. We didn't get a lot of rain in the spring. So what made these things grow? Weeds are really resilient. They don't take a lot. They take absolutely, they need nothing from us, right? They're going to grow, and they're going to grow crazy without us even blinking an eye at them. And in Nevada, it would be come out of winter and there's not much going on, and then all of a sudden, boop, 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 weeds coming up all over the place. And Dad would say, get out there and handle it. And eventually my brothers and I would, because sometimes Dad would have to tell us more than once. And my dad was very kind, so we allowed him to tell us more than once. But the end of the issue is that we had to get out there and take care of those weeds. The insidiousness of weeds, the dangerousness of weeds in that they just lie dormant and then pop up. And once they pop up, if they're ignored, they just spread, right? So my brothers and I would go out there and we'd take the hoe and we'd take the shovel and we'd get at it. The thing with the weeds was the big ones. The big ones were the easiest for my brother and I to identify. Because if we took care of the big ones, the little ones wouldn't look so bad. So we'd go at them, and we were told, get them by the root so they don't come back. So we'd dig the shovel around them, and we'd pull them out the best we could by hand to get all the root, counting the root. How much root did we? Yeah, scored! But it was those little roots that we didn't care so much, so we just hoe over them just to knock them off the surface of the ground and not really think too much about them. The big weeds were gone. The big problems were gone. But the little weeds came back and came back like wildfire every single time. The same thing is in recovery. The big weeds are there. I walked into recovery with addictions to methamphetamine, alcohol, and being a sexual abuser. I could identify those. Those were big hurts in my life. So, through a lot of hard work, like going in the backyard in the sun and getting those weeds, I worked on my recovery. And I've been able to get down to the root of those issues, that they don't trouble me anymore. But I still know that they were once there. And I'm still aware that there could be weeds, lingering effects from them. So I need to stay uh, uh, with my eyes on them. I need to stay alert and not procrastinate. That's why I still go to Celebrate Recovery meetings. That's why I still stay involved, leading small groups and step studies, and just being a participant myself. There's a proverb. It's Proverbs 8 verse 17, and God says, "I love those who love me, and if they seek me, they will find me." Talking with people in Celebrate Recovery and using the analogy of going after the weeds, I found that so many of them have said that they've grown to know God more through working the steps of Celebrate Recovery. By digging into the deep darkness of their hurt, habit, or hang-up, the pain in their life, they're seeing the revelation of God. Calling out to God in the middle of our recovery, "God, I need you to help me with this." And he comes. Remember, if you seek me, he says, you will find me. And God is there, waiting to help us to get the weeds out of our life. The first ones, the big pain that brings you there, get it out by the root. But it's the maintenance, taking care of continually going into the yard, the garden of our hearts, and taking care of the weeds that are still there, the small ones, those little ones that with just a little bump in our life, with just a little chaos around us, those weeds can come up and manifest themselves in the way of anger, in the way of lust, in the way of greed, in the ways that are not of God. God only grew good fruit. He doesn't grow weeds. Those weeds come up because we are of a sinful nature. But God looks past that sinful nature, desiring us to come to him, and he will help us to address the weeds in our life. It's hard to grow good in our life if we can't take care of the weeds that are around it. The weeds will choke them out, just as Jesus said about the seed on the wayside. The cares of the world will choke out that good seed. We're seeking God through Celebrate Recovery to help us with these giant weeds in our life. And using the process of Celebrate Recovery, we can find relief from these giant weeds. But it's in the daily inventory. It's the continuing to show up to meetings and to participate in them is helping to take care of the small weeds. Calling and speaking to your sponsor. Calling other brothers and sisters in recovery, because guess what? Their backyards are filled with weeds too. The yards of our heart need to be flourished with the flowerful fruit that God has for us, so that we can be, one, happy within ourselves, that we can rejoice in the God that created us, and number two, that we can be pleasing in the sight to those around us, because there's weeds all over the place. My dad told me and my brother time and time again, go out and take care of those weeds. Hey boys, I thought I asked you to take care of those weeds. I believe that God is asking the same thing. This life lesson that I'll never forget from being a kid is still alive and real today. And it may be with you too. Daddy's telling me, take care of the weeds, Tracy. Get out there and take care of those weeds. And he's given me the tools to do it through Celebrate Recovery, through brothers and sisters like you. So thank you for helping me to till my garden so that the good fruit grows. My name is Tracy. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. God loves you, and I love you, and there ain't nothing you can do about it. Have a great day.